Hey, this is Frank. You're listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. Do you ever feel like you have friends who sometimes just don't get each other? This is a podcast that I recorded with two of my friends, Jake and Noah. We find out the hard ways we struggle to communicate better and sometimes succeed, but sometimes not. For years, the three of us have talked about communication and how it's sometimes easier said than done. Even when we're trying to be understanding, our well-meaning intentions often get lost in translation. We decided to share these conversations with the world. Join us as we find out what happens when three friends try to learn how to really talk to each other.
I think that Jake and Noah should take this test so we have some insight.
Which test?
Value of your time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. You should take that test.
I think that could be an interesting thing.
How long does that take? Is that like a 5-minute thing? Or is that...
Yeah, it's 5 minutes probably.
You want to do that real quick?
Good.
Well, we definitely have opinions on it.
Yeah, I mean, I have my initial opinion, and then I might have a different one after taking it.
I just meant
What?
the value of
Okay,
time.
hang on. What's your initial opinion?
It's the whoop thing. Like, knowing the information may actually change the way that I look at the world, and currently I don't feel as though I need to look at the world differently. It's something we talked about in the very, very first episode. I said there are people who see the world and they see the problems and they say, I could do something to change it. And there are people who are like, I don't really see the problem, so I'm very happy. So to me, it seems like this could introduce a piece of knowledge that would actually increase my discontentment with the world.
Oh, discontentment?
Mm-hmm.
I could see why you would fear that.
Now, obviously, like there's a positive aspect as well. I see that very clearly, but I mean, we could just talk about it right now.
Well,
Is it
what's your-
recording?
But we should talk about it, then take the test.
But I'm interested in what's your initial opinion on value of time, because that's the thing the test is telling us how we see time.
Yeah, it's a thought experiment. And the results were surprising to me the first time I took it. Like, very surprising. I don't know. Maybe we should take it, then talk about it.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Do you have
I
a
mean,
link?
I have a link. It's on clearerthinking.org.
Okay.
The value of your time calculator.
Yep. Did you read the last paragraph of the intro?
I got bored.
So you skipped it?
Mm-hmm.
It says you will not always find it useful to put a monetary value on your time. If you're relaxing on a beach at vacation, for instance, you probably don't want to think in these terms. But many of life's decisions require you to trade money for time or vice versa. For these situations, it's very useful to know the specific value you place on your time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is everyone complete with the assessment thingy?
Yep.
I am.
What'd you think of it?
It was different than I anticipated. I mean, I guess I didn't really have a perfect expectation, but yeah, thought experiment. It was kind of interesting.
Were your values consistent?
No, not consistent. I was less consistent than 50% of other users.
Nice. What about you?
Mine weren't consistent, but I think the thing I take issue with it was an interesting thought experiment, but I think it's way too black and white, and which is, I think, where you and I differ on time value in general. For instance, my value of free time is way higher than my value that I get paid for, according to the test. However, I value my free time so highly because I have a job that I put time into, but also I learn a lot of things that might pay me in the future in my job. And if we talk about, like Alex Hormozy talks a lot about investing in education, I feel like I'm getting paid for this massive SEO education, which has a lot of value for me. So it's just way too black and white in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's Naval Ravikant talks about setting a personal aspirational wage which is like a way to talk about the number you're thinking of. Like for free time, I think they define it in a certain way, but it's, I don't think it would be used for skills acquisition in the way they define it. It would be like sitting on a beach, like relaxing or something. But if you have a personal aspirational wage, then this is sort of saying the world hasn't recognized what my time is worth yet, but I believe that it will. And this is what I'm setting that at. And then this gives you a lot of incentive to work to become that valuable. But the only thing I know about this calculator is that it did change the way I viewed money.
In what way? Was it like I'm more willing to pay for services to free up time?
Definitely. Yeah,
That's the biggest one?
Well, yeah, I think so. Or just buy something. I mean, I grew up in scarcity mindset world for sure, and just didn't have money. And like, you can keep this idea, but the thing about currency is they call it that because it flows. It's always going somewhere. And so you can choose what to do with it. Why not choose things that free up your time? Why not increase your freedom? I think that's the biggest change it made for me. So I'm still have areas where I'm not consistent. And I thought I would be when I took it now, but overall, I think it averaged to consistent, but I put a really high premium on waiting in line for an hour. That was higher than the rest. And I think the first time I took this, it was lower. I was like, yeah, I'd wait an hour for a gift card or whatever.
I put 10 minutes.
I put 20 minutes and immediately thought, I want to change that to 10.
I said 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Waiting in line for money that is only usable at one store. No.
Yeah, but all of these things are black and white. I mean, they have to be. It's like anything. You can only have a thing if you define it. But.
Yeah, I'm not really complaining about the test. I'm just saying that's why I don't know that I find it super useful for myself. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
Well, it depends on what you mean by useful. I mean, I think it is always interesting to get this sort of perspective on yourself that's outside and objective and says, hey, look at the ways that you seem to be inconsistent. It's not to say you should be consistent. It's to say you are inconsistent. Okay, so why do you value your time differently? So for me, and it actually mentioned this, it said, it seems that you would require more money to do an additional hour of work than you are currently being paid by your employer. Yeah, absolutely. I would need at least $20 more per hour, which seems meager, but like before I find it valuable, no, I need more money. And it said, okay, well, that makes sense because it shows that the value of your time, you perceive it as higher based on the number of hours that you're already committed to each week. This makes sense to me. Fee for a machine to save an hour of work, like I put a very low premium on that because like, I don't know, for me, I thought about like yard work or something like that. Technically, this reduces freedom. I've got to spend 4 hours on my day off to do this. But currently I have a pretty positive outlook to it. Like it's enjoyable to be outside. I like working hard. And I realized that it said, neutral experience, but I don't know. I don't know how many truly neutral experiences I have. Like if I'm in it, I'm going to try to make the most of it. It doesn't feel like a reduction of freedom to me.
Yeah, I agree. That's the first time I took it, I thought of getting the gift card and I'm like, how would I be in this scenario? It would be because someone else wanted to get it too. Like we're in the line together and it's kind of an experience. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'd probably wait an hour. And then this time I think at 15 minutes, I'm gone. I don't even think I'd be there for like, it would be hard to believe that I would stay there for 15 minutes waiting on that.
Walk up and say, gift card, please.
Yeah.
Well, Chick-fil-A opened here a while back and I was like, why is everybody, it didn't surprise me, but why is everybody waiting in line for hours to get Chick-fil-A? You could probably drive into St. Louis and get Chick-fil-A faster. But then somebody, maybe Jake, said that the first,
I think it was Frank,
100 customers got like Chick-fil-A for a year or something like that.
Brandy might have told us all.
Oh, maybe Brandy. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes more sense, but still like, No.
Well, now
It's just
how are you going to make it
interesting.
worth your time? Like, you're going to go there every single day, right? You're going to be like, well, I have to get my money's worth. This is the only year that I get it for free. So,
Well, right.
Yeah,
And then there's the
how long do you do
downside.
that before you quit doing that? Like,
right. Because have you seen the line at Chick-fil-A today is like as long as it was on that opening day?
It's
What in
Sunday
the world?
today. They're not open.
Oh, good point. Them in Hobby Lobby.
No, but then the downside is you don't know if you're going to be in the hundreds. So what if you waste that time? If you wait 3 hours to get up there and find out you were 101,
Mm-hmm.
then you
Yeah.
just threw away 3 hours of your life to pay Chick-fil-A for a meal.
yeah, well, and I don't think you shouldn't live your whole life thinking about the time value of money. But
Yeah.
I still fail to do it like regularly. My Apple Watch is like 5 years old. I use it all the time for tracking walks and hiking, and every single day it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spend time on this problem. I'm like, I'm going to go for a hike in a little bit. I got to go charge this thing. I could just buy a new one, and it would be way less time.
Yeah. Noah and I had that conversation almost exactly, and it was about my phone. I just replaced my phone a week ago, and I had it since 2019, so about 4 years or so. And it's sort of this like pain versus benefit threshold. At some point, it's more painful not to make the purchase than it is to make the purchase. And like as soon as that happened, like it clicked for me. It was like, oh, this is crashing multiple times per day. My camera doesn't open. It's dying. Like, okay, time for a new phone. And boom, got it.
Yeah, and like I feel like I have lost more in time already on making sure the Apple Watch is charged before I go to use it, or because tracking my steps as well. And I don't know, it's just a part of like it's a good feedback mechanism, so I like to have it. And so just making sure it's always charged because it's a 5-year-old battery I've already spent more time than the money. So we could probably recognize it earlier than when it's so painful we must change.
Absolutely. Sure. It's that idea that like, well, what about my mental bandwidth? Even if it's not time, trading time for money. It's like, what could I be doing with this sort of mental space that I'm paying for my thoughts, with my thoughts rather. I'm paying with my energy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to deliberate over it for this amount of time, then just do it.
I agree with that. And I'm the same as you, growing up in scarcity, there's absolutely been this mindset of, okay, well, it's more valuable for me to do this myself. God, when I had my second car, I guess, I was like, I'm going to change the timing belt myself. That was painful. Oh my God. So much, like truly just an excruciating 14 hours of labor to remember where all these lugs are, like walk through the entire process of learning how this car works. I mean, I come out of it. I feel like I understand my car better. It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it now for the money I would have paid. But am I ever changing my own oil again? No, I'm not. Like, it's just not worth it to me.
Right.
And I think that we're seeing this over time as well as like, we've been paying for specialists to do work for us for a very long time. Automotive work is probably one of the top things that you can think, oh, they were doing this back in the 1940s and 50s too, right? But today we're seeing a lot more automations with things like lawn mowing, lawn care, grocery shopping, like just this day-to-day stuff where it's like, I'm a busy person. I got to commute, whatever. Somebody else can do my grocery shopping for me. Heck, somebody else can even cook for me. And we're starting to see this become a little bit more democratized. I don't know if that's because people are realizing the value of their time, or maybe it's just because they're like, I literally can't, and there's an option.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's both. And another part of what changed for me from scarcity, like so I went from scarcity to like a different version of it, which was like, I'm going to keep everything I make, like this extreme level of savings. And then I got a better understanding of how the economy works, in which the fundamental basic is that your spending is someone else's income. So if you want the world to prosper, you should use currency for flowing it. Like it should go to someone else. And because they will have more income.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't spend money without it being someone else's income. So between sort of understanding the value of my time versus money and the need to like contribute to the world. Like I want other people to make money.
Mm-hmm.
They can only do that if I give it to them. Like if we're all giving each other money, then the economy grows.
Makes a lot of sense. It's multifaceted too. I mean, not so many years ago, I had my first child and my only child. But I had a child. It was the first time.
The only one you know about.
Yeah. Well, and I got.
He just leapt up and told us there's another on the way.
Is there another on the way?
I don't know where Noah's at. No, I'm going to start my story over again. So not so many years ago.
Wait, are you avoiding the question?
Yes, I am. It's a weird question. I do not have another child on the way. I have one child. So not so many years ago, I quit my job. I became a full-time student. I had a child, and we were trying to live on the wages of, an artist. Like that's a hard business to start up. It was not going well. We ended up getting into a ton of debt. And I remember getting out of school, getting the best job that I could. It was really not the job for me. It was kind of a toxic environment, but I took it on, and it was because it was that scarcity mindset. I need this. At the very same time, it was like, okay, we're going to go the Dave Ramsey route. We're going to get this debt snowball going. It's gazelle intensity, right? And I'm getting this debt gone. But when I looked at my life, my God, it was nothing. It was work. It was get up as early as possible, make as much money as possible, and pay that debt off. And yes, you need that for a time. But at some point, that mindset of, okay, every spare dollar goes to debt, and when that's over, every spare dollar goes to savings, you are not actually living a life. And there's something to that. You want to be able to pay for the things that you need and stuff like that. But I remember a couple of years ago, we all went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and I had the most savings that I had ever had in my life at that time. But I was anxious about the money that I was spending on this vacation. That was very enjoyable. It's very fun. And I was talking to you, Frank, and you looked over at me and you said, okay, how much money do you have in savings? And you asked me, okay, so is there anything that could really happen right now? Your car stops working, you need a new washing machine, whatever. Is there anything that could happen right now that you couldn't pay for in cash on top of this vacation? I said no. And it was really like, it was a breakthrough moment for me, because it was, okay, I have what I need. If I can't be happy right now, I could have $1 million in the bank and I wouldn't be happy then either. I would constantly be thinking about every dollar that goes out and how to save the money that I have and how to make it make money for me. I need to learn how to be present in this moment too. So I say all that to say that I definitely have a different mindset with spending. Like I want to enjoy today as much as I enjoy 20 years from now, whenever I, feel completely comfortable or whatever.
Yeah. I think for me, and I think probably true for others, you can think way too much about money, and obviously being in debt or having scarcity in general, like just difficulty getting money, makes this way worse. But I don't know. I really believe people like at 20, I don't know, this number is going to be wrong in a year, definitely wrong in 10 years. But at $20,000 for an average American, if you have $20,000 in savings, your level of money anxiety and problems just like drops off. There's no, like, what could happen? Which thing could happen in your life right now that you wouldn't be able to cover in cash? And so, I think everyone should get to that level of wealth. And then you can make pure decisions. Like they're not motivated by fear. They're just, what do I want to do with my money? What do I want to do with my time? is if my boss sucks and I hate my job, I'll just quit and go do what I want with my life.
Well, that was a very interesting thing too. This most recent time that I wanted to get a job, I went into it from a position of power. From a position of confidence. I mentioned I took this job that was really very toxic. I wouldn't do that again. I would ask for exactly what I want. I would, talk to this. I would feel them out. I was interviewing the employer as much as they were interviewing me. This was a very different experience than the Jake who was living in scarcity.
Right. Yeah, I have this. I mean, I'm currently like sort of looking for opportunities, but only great ones that are a super good match for me. And so I had what I thought was that. And the more I talked to them, the more interview, I went to the second interview, and like during the second interview, I just was like, this is definitely not the company for me. And the girl was describing her day as being like constant meetings. And she just tries to get some work done between them, on them, but she gets distracted, and then she has to stay late and do her actual work after all the meetings. And I was just like, I don't like, this isn't for me for sure. I hate recurring meetings. They don't make any sense to me. I'm like, it's a bad match for sure. Cool. Seemed like a cool product they had and important work. But if the culture is that, I don't know that it's going to be worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are in debt or you don't have any wealth at all, you haven't gotten money and not spent it, then you can't even make choices like that. You're just like, okay, well, I need a job, so taking this one.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the whole idea of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You've got your base human needs. I need to eat every day. I need a safe place to sleep. And then, you build up from there. But if you don't have those things taken care of, like your consciousness is literally divided. Let me take care of these things, and then I can worry about living a fulfilling life. So it makes a difference. And I mean, I think that the value of time calculator kind of, it is good to have some idea of what you think your time is worth, especially if it's lower than you realized. If you're valuing your time way lower than you realized you were, as you can see across these different, thought experiments, it's like, wait a second, what am I doing with my life? What am I trading my time for? I'm seeing here that 1 extra hour of work per week, neutral work, I want more than I'm currently being paid. I am also talking about, negotiating my salary currently. So it does kind of align with what I'm seeing. So that's kind of a confidence builder. But if it was like drastically different, that would be confusing. A wake up call, perhaps.
Yeah. I don't know when the first time I took this, maybe like was 4 years ago or something. But my consistency was like 3 maybe or something. It says it's 8.47 now, which is more consistent than 95% of people who use this tool. But that's been like a process for sure. And I'm not good at it. I do stupid time value decisions all the time, but I at least have some fundamental understanding of it from this thing changing my mind, I guess. I don't know. Everyone should take it, I think.
What's everybody looking at me for?
So you
look really de-energized by this.
I don't think in terms of money very often.
But what do you think your value system is? I mean, we've had several conversations in which, Frank, you're like, oh, I'll absolutely spend the $1 rather than spend the extra hour doing this work. Noah and I almost always will say, no, I'd work the extra hour. And, so that's sort of what brought up this whole topic. What do you think your value system is?
I don't know. I just don't think it's that black and white. That's my big problem with this tool, is that it seems super black and white to me. And I think about, your mowing example. I feel the same way. I hate mowing. I hate it. But it takes me 30 minutes to mow my yard. It gives me exercise. It gives me sunlight. I think about these things. Like, it's not it's not worth paying somebody. I don't know what it costs to get a lawn mowed weekly or bi-weekly.
$20 for your yard
per week. Yeah. So we're looking at $80 a month if I want it mowed weekly. It's not worth that to me because I'm getting other benefits. It doesn't take me that long to do it. And all of this, I don't sit down and write this out and think about it, but I mean, I do these calculations in my head. But the same thing with the value of like my salary, for instance. Like I said, I've spent the last year doing a deep dive and being paid for it into marketing and SEO and all these things. I don't know how long I'm going to work at this place, but the things that I'm learning, I'm going to take with me and probably be able to use them and make more money eventually. So all of this goes into my calculations internally.
Well, I think you're kind of pointing at something that I also felt whenever I was reading this. There is no truly neutral experience. Like, this kind of relies on the idea of a neutral experience. You're not happy, you're not sad, you're not getting any additional benefit. It's not really taking anything away from you. It's really hard to think of an actual scenario where that's true.
Well, right. And the if we look at the difference between working, like what I've just explained, working and learning for the past year, or standing in line. I said I'd stand in line for 10 minutes max to get $100 gift card or whatever. I'm only getting $100 gift card for that experience, but I'm getting a whole lot more that I can carry with me. That $100 is super finite. The things that I'm learning every day at work, the problems that I have to solve that now I don't have to solve in the future, these things hold far more value than that. If the $100 gift card solved the problem that I know like forever, I mean, if it was, instead of a $100 gift card, it was you never have to mow again, sure. I might stand in line for a day if I never have to mow again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's just completely.
So let's back it up for just a second and say, because I mean, I'm with you. Like this is pretty much how I feel about it too. But let's say, I'll say it for myself. Maybe I'm convincing myself that these experiences are positive because my frame of reference says it's about as bad as it gets, and I can pretty much believe that I've got some benefit or happiness out of it either way. Now, let's say that I actually value my time at $100, $150 per hour, something like that. That is not what I put in the test. And all of a sudden, spending even 5 minutes in a line becomes zero, which is actually pretty consistent with what I'm saying the value of my time is. All of a sudden, the education that I say that I'm getting from my job, well, I could go out and actually like get a different education with that time. I could do it if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. It would be in whatever I wanted it to be, not just SEO. You don't know how long you're going to be in that job. What if it was, I'm going to, have $150 an hour to sit around for a month and explore and figure out what it is that I want to do with my life. Like if our frame of reference expanded and we truly believed this instead, would it be different? Would we say, oh, wow, why did I spend a year learning about SEO when maybe it wasn't my passion?
Sure, but I think that this gets super convoluted.
Maybe.
Because that opportunity doesn't necessarily exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but if there were somebody out there who wanted to pay me $150 an hour to learn whatever I wanted,
mm-hmm.
What would you learn?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if you knew.
No. I mean, I'm constantly learning anyway.
Yeah. I just mean if like you had no direction other than what you wanted, what would you do?
Oh, I don't value education that much, but I value learning a lot. So I don't know that I would go. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go to school.
No, I hope not. That's a
well, sure. I mean, you're getting hands-on education. You're getting real-world learning in where you're at.
Yeah.
It is more useful. It's just, and I agree with you. But let's say where you're at in your life, you kind of took a great opportunity, and you saw a lot of benefits in it. You make as much money as you need to right now, and then you move to South America next year, and all of a sudden other opportunities present themselves. You're going to be doing something different.
Freedom for me
as you build and that opportunity may present itself someday, would you look at this experience differently?
Maybe, I don't know. But freedom for me is being able to choose daily what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
not planning out what I want to do for the next year or whatever. True freedom for me would be I wake up and go, okay, what do I want to do today? And I would definitely do things. I know that about myself. I don't know necessarily what those things would be as I sit here.
Mm-hmm.
But true freedom would be I can wake up and go, okay, I'm going to do this today.
Yeah. And
do you feel like you have that?
Not working a job, no. I mean, not that kind of freedom, no. Within my job, I have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
So there's a spectrum maybe, or
yeah. I mean, there are things I really like about a job, which are just like a consistent mission to be a part of, like for a long time. I really like that. There are things I like, certain employers I just wouldn't work for. If I need to get, like, if I was a paramedic or something, that's different. But if I need to get approval to take Thursday off at my office job, I wouldn't work that place. That doesn't, like, if someone can literally say you're denied to take Thursday off or something, that's insanity to me.
Sure.
If I need to cover an ambulance shift, that makes a little more sense to me. But I don't know. There are tons of places where they just don't allow any freedom. I don't want to work in a system like that. But if it's someone who just has a cool mission they're working on as a group of people and you can work when you want, it's kind of doesn't have hour requirements or something. These kind of jobs are pretty cool.
There are two ideas that often get completely misconstrued and turned into synonyms, and they're not. And that is quality of life and standard of living. Like, you can increase your standard of living over and over. And in fact, I have over the last 15 years, but the quality of life, it's very interesting. There was a time in my life when I was not working for an extended period of time. And it's when I became the most depressed in my life. And like this consistent mission that you're talking about, this is one thing that is really great. You have something to keep your mind focused, to pour your time and yourself into. That's not nothing. But at the same time, like, if I was going to pursue my own endeavor, I would require myself to make more money than I would have 5 years ago. 5 years ago, that number would have been much lower. So I do value my time higher now. Like, if I just gave up my job and chose to do something all on my own.
Right.
Well, there's another value exchange with having an employer as opposed to being your own, which is I don't have to deal with a lot of the business stuff that I would have to if I was my own. There are benefits for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't have to worry about the company existing.
Yeah. Well, most people can't generate the consistency needed to be a small business or entrepreneur by themselves. I wish they could or whatever. Like, I'm not making a judgment about it. It's just true. And so, I mean, companies sort of do this. You're collaborating. There's other people. They're reinforcing the consistent mission.
Mm-hmm. There are definitely different types of people in this world. The more that I've worked with small business owners, the more I realize how they all have this sort of high level, shoot for the stars sort of perspective. It is, I'm looking at the business from a 10,000 foot view. And I mean, from that perspective, you have a lot of control over that consistency. This is our product offering. This is, how we're going to deliver it and this sort of thing. That is not something I am skilled at all. You give me that idea, that direction, that vision casting, and I can make it happen on the ground very, very well. But it would be hard for me to start my own thing just all by myself. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think for me, it's like a combination of things. I like being a part of organizations where there's a consistent mission. And I also like sort of building from my own thing. I think it's just finding a fit where someone's like not going to require a certain number of hours a day or need approval to take, you don't have enough PTO hours or something. I don't want to do that conversation with anyone, but I will give them extraordinary value for their money be part of their organization, and have enough time available to work on whatever I want outside of their organization. Because I just like both.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like for me. But I think most people could probably do that. It's just not going to be the first job you see on LinkedIn. You just got to be able to have enough staying power to keep looking and find the right match.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like this, this test is specifically looking at the monetary value of your time. And on the front page, it says, well, time shouldn't always be looked at from a monetary aspect. And there is something to that. Like once you do have that level of security that you can go into an interview from a position of confidence, the opportunities do sort of present themselves. You go into it and you say, well, this is what I can do for you, but this is what I require. And, oh, it's not your company? All right, well, I'll talk to the next people. But I need to be able to have autonomy in my work, in my free time, in these types of things. That's not monetary, but it is valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I've traded tons of things that aren't money for work relationships. I work very few hours overall. Yeah. I just produce really quality value in the hours I work.
Kind of starts with knowing yourself and, building that confidence in who you are.
Yeah, this thing said I shouldn't work more hours. I don't know if I don't know what it takes into account. Did yours say that?
It may be a good idea for you to reduce the number of hours you're working each week. Yeah.
Yeah, chances are good that you're working about the right number of hours every week.
Well, I will say that after taking this test, I think that it will enhance my perspective, but it is not, meeting the expectation of the fear that I had. It's not like this, oh, now I look at the world in terms of monetary value and I'm going to make a bunch of different decisions. But I think it has kind of equipped me with a new tool to check my own consistency, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the concept of neutrality also really matters. And they introduce it as only neutral or whatever. But for me, depending on who asks me to do a thing and how my working experience has been with them, really is the most important factor in how much I'm going to charge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I don't think neutrality exists. I mean, in this context, I just don't think it does. If you can find me a truly neutral situation, I'd be surprised.
Well, the thing is, even if it's neutral,
fax this piece of paper.
You think that's neutral?
Yeah. What do you think of it as?
Well, you already brought up depending on who asks you to do the thing.
Sure. So because it's me, you don't like it. You prefer to someone else ask you to fax?
I'd be more willing to do it because you're my friend.
Yeah.
Than if some random person was like, hey, fax this.
Sure. Yeah. I just think like doing a task, being a little task rabbit sort of person is what they're getting. Like you're going to get these papers, you're going to have to data enter them. It's, you know, if they pay you $1,500 an hour, everybody's going to be cool with it. So it's neutral.
Well, that's the thing is my point is like the idea of neutral immediately becomes not neutral anymore, because what's going to happen for me is I'm going to say, oh, that's horrible. Or I'm going to change it and I'm going to say $1,500 an hour. Yeah, it's worth it. I'm going to make a game out of it. Let's see how efficient it can become. And it's all in the mind.
Well, in that context, if you put it within, like, this is your job, like within a work context, this work box, you get paid an hourly rate and you're going to work 8 hours a day. If I work in this box of 8 hours and I just do whatever you tell me to do, from a time value standpoint, I don't really care what the task is. From an interest standpoint, I sure do.
Sure.
But it's not going to change the value of my time, like the monetary value of my time.
Why? I think it's key for me. I mean,
well, you're saying like you're going to be doing something that is not stimulating to you either way. So it doesn't matter what that non-stimulating neutral thing is.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Right.
Right. And then you're saying more like, I want it to be positive or even negative. Like neutral is maybe the worst thing I could ever do. And so you should pay me more to do something neutral because I'm not getting any benefit out of this.
Mine is conditional. if I get paid a certain amount for 8 hours of work to do whatever you tell me to do, as far as time monetary value goes, it doesn't matter to me what the task is.
Do you guys think your life is improved by this test?
Sure. I think it's always good to have more information.
No.
Do you think there's a chance that it could be in the future?
Possibly.
You'll probably wait in line at Best Buy for gift cards less often now.
I haven't been to Best Buy in years.
Noah actually loves Best Buy gift cards. It's something I know about him.
Yeah, it's hate Slack and love Best Buy. That's his mantra. He has shirts that say that.
Mm-hmm.
What I really do value about that test is that I like frameworks for thinking about things. And I'll probably think about this in ways that have nothing to do with time. But it's like, what am I trading for what? And there is this aspect of it can be consistent or it can be inconsistent. It's fine. It could be either one, but why? Like, what is that thing? And whenever I can look at that thing that's changing, I know a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I mean, it's not even a part of this, but all the clear thinking sort of thought experiments are really good. But I used to really think that money was like, that saving it was the most optimal thing you could do. Like, just keep your money, because that's like, I don't know who put that in my head. I honestly don't know. I should investigate that. But when I really realized that your spending is someone else's income, like, you're making other people's lives better when you spend money.
Mm.
And this, coupled with the time value of money, was like an unlock. I'm like, oh, and like, what, I need more of these in my bank account or something? Like, that's really what I need? Or I want to help Jessica be able to feed Thatcher.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy some art,
I like it a lot.
Makes sense.
Would you like to close us in prayer?
I almost made up one, but I can't.
I just can't.
I just know that some of us have thought we should have a slower sort of transitional type of ending.
Wait, a transition?
Oh. Let's see if we can find a good transition.
2 or 5.
Powered by Riverside FM.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time on
The
Unbecoming
Platypus
podcast.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, it's Frank again. Thanks for listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. You can also check us out online at theunbecomingplatypus.com. We hope these conversations inspire you to improve your communication skills and deepen your connections with your own friends and loved ones. Until next time, this has been the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.